This did not exist yesterday. 24 hours ago, the ocean was calm. Satellite imagery showed nothing. No tropical wave, no organized thunderstorms, no hint of the monster that was about to be born. Forecast models were quiet, meteorologists were tracking a different system entirely, 1,000s of miles away, and then, overnight, everything changed. A Category 5 hurricane, the strongest possible on the Saffir-Simpson scale, spun up from nothing. Winds accelerated from 0 to over 160 miles per hour in less than 12 hours. That is not how hurricanes work. That is not how they have ever worked. At least not in recorded history. Meteorologists have a term for this: explosive intensification. But that phrase does not capture the terror of what just happened. What just happened is unprecedented. And now comes the part that no one saw coming. The direction this storm is heading changes everything. You have heard of hurricanes that turn north and die over cold water. You have heard of storms that curve harmlessly back into the Atlantic. You have heard of near misses, the ones where the cone of uncertainty shifts at the last moment, and a city is spared. This is not one of those storms. The direction this hurricane is heading is not away from land. It is not toward an uninhabited stretch of coast. It is heading directly towards something that has never been hit by a Category 5 hurricane in recorded history, and the models are not diverging. The spaghetti plots, those messy collections of lines that usually spread out in all directions, are not spreading. They are converging. Every single model, every single run, every single supercomputer simulation agrees on one thing: this storm is going somewhere it should not be able to go. And the people in that path have no idea what is coming. Let me give you the timeline. At midnight, the National Hurricane Center issued its first advisory. A tropical depression had formed. Winds were 35 miles per hour. Nothing unusual. By 2 a.m., it was a tropical storm. By 4 a.m., a Category 1 hurricane. By 6 a.m., Category 3. By 8 a.m., Category 5. That is not a gradual intensification. That is a detonation. The warm ocean waters, which have been heating up for decades due to climate change, acted like jet fuel. The storm fed on that heat, drawing energy from the surface, building a core so compact and so powerful that it became self-sustaining. The eye, that calm center at the heart of the storm, contracted to just 3 miles across. In a Category 5 hurricane, the eye is usually 20 to 40 miles wide. 3 miles means the winds are spinning faster than almost anything ever measured. The pressure at the center dropped faster than any hurricane in the last 50 years, and now that tiny, hyper-intense eye is moving. And the storm is currently located at a latitude and longitude that puts it on a collision course with a region that has no hurricane infrastructure, no sea walls, no evacuation plans, no experience with winds of this magnitude. The locals do not even know what a Category 5 hurricane looks like, because they have never seen one. They have never needed to. The historical tracks show that hurricanes in this part of the world usually turn away. They get pushed by prevailing winds, sheared apart by upper-level circulation, or simply run out of warm water. But this year, that steering pattern has collapsed. The jet stream has been behaving strangely, wobbling in ways that climate scientists have been warning about for years. The high-pressure system that normally blocks hurricanes from entering this region has weakened, and the storm, this overnight monster, has found the gap. It has slipped through, and now it is barreling toward a coastline that is completely unprepared. The direction this hurricane is heading changes everything. Not just for the people in its path, but for meteorology, for our understanding of how fast storms can intensify, for the insurance industry, for emergency management protocols, for the way we build cities near the water. Because if a Category 5 can form overnight, if it can appear out of nothing in less than 12 hours, then the old warning systems are useless. The old timelines, the 3-day forecasts, the 5-day cones, the gradual evacuation orders, they are obsolete. You cannot evacuate 1 million people in 6 hours. You cannot board up windows in the dark. You cannot move critical infrastructure out of the way when the storm is already at your doorstep. This hurricane is not just a weather event. It is a signal, a warning, a glimpse of the new normal. And the direction it is heading right now is not just a line on a map. It is a message, and that message is terrifying. Let me tell you what the models are showing. There are 7 major global weather models: the European model, the American GFS, the UK Met, the Canadian, the German, the Japanese, and the high-resolution ensemble systems. Every single one of them now agrees on the landfall point within a margin of 50 miles. That is extraordinary. Usually at this lead time, the spread is hundreds of miles, but not this time. The steering currents are so well-defined, so locked in, that the storm has no room to escape. The only question is the intensity at landfall. And the models are also agreeing on that. This hurricane will still be a Category 5 when it hits, not a Category 4 that is weakened slightly, not a Category 3 that has been sheared, a full, violent, catastrophic Category 5, the highest classification. The kind of storm that strips bark from trees, that lifts houses off their foundations, that drives storm surges 30 feet high. The kind of storm that has only made landfall a handful of times in recorded history. And now it is coming. The last time a Category 5 hurricane made landfall in this region was never. That is not an exaggeration. In the entire history of hurricane tracking, going back to the 1850s, no Category 5 has ever hit this coastline. The geography, the ocean currents, the prevailing winds, they all conspire to protect this place. Until now. The ocean is warmer than ever, the atmosphere is more unstable than ever, the old protections are gone, and the storm is coming. The direction it is heading is not a turn, it is not a curve. It is a straight line. You can draw it on a map with a ruler. That is how certain the track has become. And when you draw that line, when you extend it from the current position to the coast, it does not hit a sparsely populated beach. It does not hit a wildlife refuge. It hits a major population center, a city of millions, a city with outdated infrastructure, with low-lying neighborhoods, with hospitals near the water, a city that has never in its entire history faced a storm like this. The mayor of that city held a press conference this morning. You could see it in her eyes. The disbelief, the exhaustion. She had not slept. None of them had slept. They were watching the same models you are hearing about now. They knew what was coming. But they also knew that telling people to evacuate in the middle of the night with no warning, with no precedent, would cause chaos. So they waited. They watched. They hoped the models would shift. But the models did not shift. The morning runs came out, same track, same intensity, same catastrophic landfall. Now they are scrambling. Now they are trying to organize an evacuation that should have started 2 days ago. But there is no time. The storm is moving at 15 miles per hour. That is not fast for a hurricane, but it is fast enough. It will be at the coast in less than 30 hours. 30 hours to move millions of people. It is not possible. Everyone knows it is not possible, but they are trying anyway. The direction of this hurricane is not the only thing that changed overnight. The entire paradigm of hurricane forecasting changed because until now the assumption was that you would have time, that a storm would gradually intensify, that you would see it coming from days away, that you could issue watches and warnings in an orderly fashion. That is how it has always worked. But this storm broke that assumption. It formed and intensified so quickly that the forecasters themselves were caught off guard. The 11 p.m. advisory on the previous night mentioned nothing. The 5 a.m. advisory mentioned a tropical storm. By 11 a.m. it was a Category 5. That is a 12-hour gap between nothing to worry about and the strongest storm on Earth is at your doorstep. That gap is the new reality. That gap is what keeps emergency managers awake at night. And that gap is why the direction this storm is heading changes everything. Let me be specific about the direction. The storm is currently moving west-northwest. That trajectory, if it holds, will bring it directly into a heavily populated bay, a bay that concentrates storm surge, a bay that has not seen a major hurricane in over a century. The shape of the coastline, the bathymetry of the ocean floor, the narrow entrance to the bay, all of these factors will amplify the storm's effects. The surge will not be just the height of the water. It will be the height plus the funneling effect plus the astronomical high tide, which happens to coincide with the arrival time. That is the worst possible alignment. The term meteorologists use is worst-case scenario. But that phrase has been overused. This is not a worst-case scenario. This is the nightmare scenario, the one that emergency planners simulate but never believe will happen. It is happening now. The wind speeds are not the only danger. In a Category 5 hurricane, the wind is devastating, but the storm surge is even worse. Water is heavier than air. Moving water carries enormous. A 30-foot wall of water moving at 20 miles per hour will demolish almost any structure built by humans. Reinforced concrete might survive, steel might survive. But wood frame houses, brick buildings, parking garages, hospitals, schools, they will be swept away. The surge will reach miles inland, filling streets, flooding basements, trapping people in attics. The death toll from storm surge is historically much higher than from wind. And this storm's direction is pushing that surge directly into the most vulnerable part of the coastline. There is no natural barrier, no islands, no high ground near the shore, just flat land, then water, then the open ocean. And the storm is coming. The governor has declared a state of emergency. The National Guard is mobilizing. Helicopters are being flown in from neighboring states. But the logistics are impossible. There are not enough buses, not enough trains, not enough roads. The main highway leading away from the coast is already clogged with people who decided to leave on their own. Gas stations are running. Grocery stores are out of water. The airports are closing because the winds are already picking up on the outer bands. In some neighborhoods, the evacuation orders came so late that people are still at home, still packing bags, still deciding what to take. They do not know that they have already run out of time. The direction of the storm, that relentless west-northwest track, means that the outer rain bands will arrive hours before the eye. The winds will be tropical storm force by nightfall, hurricane force winds by midnight, and then, in the early morning, the eye, the calm, the false hope. And then the other side of the eye wall, often even stronger than the first. The meteorologists on television are struggling to maintain their composure. You can hear it in their voices, the slight tremor, the pause before they say the words Category 5. They have been trained to be calm, to be factual, to avoid causing panic, but the facts themselves are causing panic. Because the facts are that this storm formed overnight, that it intensified at an unprecedented rate, and that it is heading directly toward a population center that has never faced anything like it. The direction is not ambiguous. The models are not uncertain. The only uncertainty is how many people will be able to get out before the roads become impassable, and that number, according to every evacuation model, is not enough. Let me put this in perspective. The last Category 5 hurricane to make landfall in the United States was Hurricane Michael in 2018. It destroyed Mexico Beach, Florida. Winds of 160 miles per hour, storm surge of 14 feet. The damage was catastrophic, but Michael intensified gradually. There were days of warning. People had time to leave. This storm is different. This storm formed so close to the coast that there was no time. The direction is not taking it out to sea. The direction is not taking it toward a sparsely populated area. The direction is taking it straight into a metropolitan area of more than 3 million people. That has never happened before. Not in the United States. Not anywhere in the developed world. A Category 5 hurricane hitting a major city has been the nightmare scenario for decades. And now it is not a nightmare, it is a forecast. The water temperature in the path of this storm is 32 degrees Celsius, that is 90 degrees Fahrenheit, that is hot tub temperature. The reason the storm intensified so quickly is that it moved over a patch of ocean that has been heating up for years. A marine heat wave. The kind of anomaly that climate scientists have been warning about. The warm water extended deep below the surface, so the storm's churning did not cool it down. Usually, hurricanes stir up cooler water from below, which limits their intensity. But not this time. The ocean was warm all the way down. The storm fed on that warmth, converting it into wind, into rain, into power. And now that power is heading toward... The direction is taking it over even warmer water for the next 12 hours. It will not weaken before landfall. It will intensify. It will get stronger. It will become something that has never been recorded. The reconnaissance aircraft flew into the storm this morning. The pilots reported extreme turbulence. The aircraft, specially built to withstand hurricane-force winds, was buffeted so violently that they almost turned back. The data they collected confirmed what the satellites were seeing, a pressure drop of over 50 millibars in 6 hours. That is the kind of drop associated with the most intense hurricanes in history. The eye wall is nearly continuous. The lightning in the eye is intense. That lightning is a sign of a storm that is still intensifying, still drawing energy from the ocean, still growing. The aircraft also dropped sondes, instruments that measure temperature, humidity, and wind speed. The winds at the surface were estimated at 180 miles per hour. That is beyond Category 5. That is off the scale. That is the kind of wind that tears asphalt off roads. that lifts cars and throws them, that makes the air itself a weapon. The direction of this hurricane is not just a problem for the coastline, the inland effects will be devastating as well. After landfall, the storm will continue moving inland. It will weaken, but slowly. The warm, moist air will feed thunderstorms hundreds of miles from the coast, flooding rain, tornadoes, power outages that will last for weeks. The direction will take it over a series of rivers that are already swollen from recent rains. Those rivers will crest at record levels, dams will be tested, levees may fail, the storm will not disappear after landfall. It will become a different kind of disaster. A water disaster, a flooding disaster. And the people who thought they were safe because they lived miles from the coast will discover that they are not safe at all. The insurance industry is already calculating the loss. The early estimates are staggering, tens of billions of dollars. Possibly more. This could be the most expensive natural disaster in history, not because the storm is stronger than others, but because of where it is heading. The direction is taking it into a region of high property values, dense development, and inadequate building codes. Many of the buildings in the path were constructed before modern hurricane standards. They are not designed to withstand winds of this magnitude. They will fail. Not some of them, most of them. The aftermath will be a landscape of rubble. The rebuilding will take years. And the question that will be asked again and again is, why was there no warning? Why did this storm form so fast? Why was the direction so predictable yet so unexpected? Those questions will be asked, but they will not be answered quickly. The people who are still in the evacuation zone are realizing that they have waited too long. The roads are gridlocked. The gas stations are... The shelters are already at capacity. Some of them are turning back, driving home, deciding to ride out the storm. They do not know what they are about to experience. A Category 5 hurricane is not like a Category 2 or 3. The difference is exponential. The wind noise alone is deafening, a continuous roar that drowns out all other sounds. The pressure changes can make your ears pop. The debris becomes deadly. Boards, signs, roofing materials, tree limbs all flying at over 100 miles per hour. And through it all, the storm surge rising, creeping, then rushing. The people who stay will not forget what they see. Many of them will not survive to tell about it. The direction of this hurricane has been compared to the Galveston hurricane of 1900. That storm killed between 6,000 and 12,000 people. It remains the deadliest natural disaster in United States history. It was a Category 4, not even a Category 5. And it hit a city that was completely unprepared. Just as this. The difference is that in 1900 there was no satellite imagery, no reconnaissance aircraft, no computer models. People did not know the storm was coming until the water was already rising. Today, we know. We know everything about this storm except one thing: how many people will die. And that number depends on how many people heed the warnings. How many leave now, even though the roads are clogged, even though the gas is gone? How many decide that their lives are worth more than their possessions? That decision is being made right now in homes across the region. Some of them will make the right choice. Some will not. Let me tell you about the eyewall replacement cycle. In intense hurricanes, the eyewall sometimes collapses and is replaced by a larger outer eyewall. This can cause the storm to weaken temporarily, but then it often re-strengthens. The models show that this storm is about to undergo one of those cycles. That means that just before landfall, the winds may drop, but the storm will increase. The wind field will expand. The storm surge will affect a larger area. The direction is such that the cycle will complete just as the storm reaches the coast. That means the worst winds will coincide exactly with landfall. Not before, not after. Exactly at landfall. That is the worst possible timing. It is as if the storm knows where it is going and is arranging itself to do maximum damage. The social media feeds from the evacuation zone are heartbreaking. People are posting videos of the empty shelves in stores, the long lines at gas stations, the bumper-to-bumper traffic on the interstate. They are asking for advice. Should they stay? Should they go? Is there any shelter left? The answers are grim. If you are still in a low-lying area, you should get to higher ground. But if you cannot get out because of traffic, you should find the sturdiest building you can, an interior room, a closet, a bathroom. You should fill your bathtub with water. You should gather your documents, your medications, your family, and you should pray. That is not a religious statement. It is a recognition that beyond a certain point, there is nothing more that human planning can do. The storm will come, the storm will do what it will do, and the survivors will be those who were lucky. The direction of this hurricane is not the only thing that changed. The entire concept of hurricane season has changed. This storm formed at a time of year when traditionally the waters are not warm enough for such rapid intensification. But the waters are warm. They are warm all year now. The old rules no longer apply. The old maps are obsolete. The old evacuation zones, the old building codes, the old assumptions about how much time you have, all of it is obsolete. This storm is a message. The direction is a message. The message is that the future is here. The future is a Category 5 hurricane that appears overnight and heads straight. And if you are not ready, you will not survive. The president has been briefed. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is mobilizing. The military is standing by. But they cannot stop the storm. They can only respond after it passes. The direction of the storm will determine where they go. The current track puts landfall at a specific point. But that point is still uncertain by a few miles. Those few miles matter. They matter because a shift of 20 miles north or south could mean the difference between the storm surge inundating a densely populated area or a slightly less densely populated area. The forecasters are doing their best. They are updating every hour. But the uncertainty remains. And that uncertainty is agonizing for the people in the path. Let me give you the latest coordinates. The storm is now located at 24.8 degrees north, 82.4 degrees west. That is approximately 200 miles west-south. The direction is west-northwest at 14 miles per hour. The central pressure is 915 millibars. That is extraordinarily low. The lowest pressure ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin was 882 millibars in Hurricane Wilma. This storm is not far from that. If it intensifies further, it could break records. It could become the most intense hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic. The direction is such that it will pass over a patch of water known as the Loop Current, which is exceptionally warm. That is where the intensification will happen. That is where the storm will become a monster beyond monsters. The people who have decided to stay are boarding up their windows. They are filling sandbags. They are moving their cars to higher ground. They are doing everything they can to prepare. But nothing can prepare you for a Category 5. Nothing can prepare you for the sound, the pressure, the veterans of past hurricanes, those who survived Andrew, Katrina, Michael, they will tell you that the memory never leaves. That the sound of the wind, the shaking of the walls, the water rising, it all comes back in nightmares. And now a new generation will have those nightmares. A new city will be marked by disaster. The direction of this hurricane will be remembered the way the direction of Katrina was remembered, the way the direction of Sandy was remembered. It will become a reference point. A before and the after will be a place that is never the same. The emergency broadcasts are interrupting regular programming. The familiar tone, the buzzing sound, the voice that says, "This is a test," is not saying test today. It is saying this is an emergency. It is giving instructions. Evacuate if you can. Shelter in place if you cannot. Do not go outside. Do not drive through standing water. Do not assume that the worst is over when the wind stops. The eye will pass. The wind will resume from the opposite direction. That is often when the most damage occurs. The emergency broadcasts are repeating this information over and over, hoping that the message reaches everyone. But there are people without power already. People without cell service. People who do not have televisions or radios. Those people are the most vulnerable. They may not know that a Category 5 hurricane is heading directly for them until the water is at their door. The direction of this hurricane has been described by one veteran forecaster as the worst-case track. He has been forecasting hurricanes for 40 years. He has seen everything. But he has never seen a storm intensify this quickly. He has never seen a storm maintain such a perfect, unwavering direction. He has never seen the models agree so completely. He said, and I quote, "This is the one we have been dreading. The one we have been dreading." That phrase captures the fear that runs through the meteorological community. They know the science. They know the problem. They know that a storm like this would eventually come. But knowing it and seeing it are different. And now they are seeing it, and they are dreading what comes next. The last few hours before landfall are a strange time. The sky darkens early, the clouds roll in, not the fluffy cumulus of a summer afternoon, but the menacing, low, fast-moving scud of a hurricane's outer bands. The wind begins to moan, not howl yet, but moan. The rain comes in bands, heavy then light, heavy then light. The pressure drops and your ears feel it. The birds disappear. The insects go silent. There is a stillness, an unnatural quiet between the rain bands. That is when the fear is strongest. That is when people who stayed realize what they have done. That is when the direction of the storm becomes personal, not a line on a map anymore, but a presence, something coming for them. The emergency services have stopped responding. The police, the fire departments, the ambulances, they have all been pulled back. It is too dangerous. They will wait until the storm passes. That means that anyone who is injured, anyone who has a heart attack, anyone who goes into labor will have to wait. The hospitals that remain open are running on generators. The emergency rooms are crowded with people who did not evacuate. The staff are exhausted, terrified, but they are working. They are doing what they swore to do. They are saving lives even as the storm rages outside. They are the heroes of this story. They will not be remembered in the same way as the storm, but they should be. They are the ones who will hold the city together when everything else falls apart. The direction of the storm is not changing. That is the update. The 5 p.m. advisory has been released. The track is essentially unchanged. The intensity is now 185 miles per hour. That is the strongest wind speed ever recorded in this basin. The pressure is 908 millibars. That is the 4th lowest ever recorded. The storm is now a monster. It is a statistical outlier. It is a black swan. It is the kind of storm that climate models predicted would become more common, but no one thought it would happen this soon. No one thought it would happen this year. But it is happening now, and the direction is taking it toward a city that is not ready, a city that will never be the same. Let me take you inside the eye of the storm, not literally, but through the reports of the hurricane hunters who flew through it an hour ago. The eye wall is a wall of clouds rising to 50,000 feet. Lightning flashes continuously inside the eye, a phenomenon that scientists are still trying to understand. The winds in the eye wall are so strong that the aircraft struggled to maintain its heading. The pilots reported severe turbulence, the kind that throws unsecured objects across the cabin. And then, the eye itself. The calm. The blue sky visible through a hole in the clouds. The warm, still air. The sense of being inside something immense and powerful and utterly indifferent to human life. That is the eye of a Category 5 hurricane. It is beautiful. It is terrifying. It is coming. The direction of the storm over the next 6 hours will determine which neighborhoods are destroyed and which are merely damaged. A slight wobble to the north could spare the downtown area but inundate the suburbs. A slight wobble to the south could put the port and the industrial zone directly in the path. The forecasters are watching the radar obsessively, looking for any sign of a wobble. So far, the storm has been remarkably steady. The direction has not changed by more than a degree in the past 12 hours. That is unusual. Most hurricanes wobble. They oscillate. They are influenced by small changes in the steering currents. But this storm is locked in. It is like a missile. It is following a trajectory that seems almost predetermined. And that trajectory is taking it directly toward the heart of... The television anchors are running out of things to say. They have been on air for hours. They have repeated the same information again and again. They have interviewed the same officials. They have shown the same satellite loops. And still, the storm approaches. Still, the direction holds. Still, the people who have not evacuated are running out of time. Some of them are turning to social media, posting their final messages, saying goodbye to loved ones. It is heartbreaking to read. It is even more heartbreaking to know that some of those messages will be the last words their families ever hear from them. The storm is not a movie, it is not a video game, it is real, and the direction is taking it toward real people with real lives, real hopes, real fears, and there is nothing that can stop it. The storm surge forecasts have been updated. The National Hurricane Center is now predicting a surge of 20 to 25 feet in the bay. That is enough to cover the first floor of most buildings, enough to turn streets into rivers, enough to sweep cars away. The surge will arrive before the peak winds. It will rise quickly as the storm pushes water ahead of it, and then, when the winds shift, the water will not recede. It will be trapped. It will be joined by rain, by runoff, by water from overflowing rivers. The flooding will last for days. The cleanup will take years. And the direction of the storm means that the worst of the surge will hit the most densely populated part of the coastline, the part with the most elderly residents, the part with the most low-income housing, the part with the fewest resources to recover. The president has just spoken. He urged everyone in the path to evacuate immediately. He said that this storm is unlike any other. He said that the direction is unprecedented. He said that the federal government is ready to assist, but the words feel because even with all the resources of the federal government, even with the military, even with FEMA, there is no way to stop a Category 5 hurricane. There is no way to push it away. There is no way to weaken it. There is only the waiting, the watching, the hoping that people listened, the knowing that many did not. The direction of the storm is now being compared to Hurricane Katrina. Katrina was a Category 3 at landfall, but it caused catastrophic flooding because of the levee failures. This storm is a Category 5. The winds alone will cause devastation that dwarfs Katrina. The flooding will be worse. The storm surge will be higher. And the direction is taking it into a region that has not invested in flood protection. A region that assumed it would never be hit. That assumption is about to be proven wrong, and the cost in lives and dollars will be staggering. Let me tell you about the people who are still on the roads. They have been driving for hours. They have barely moved. Some have run out of gas. Some have run out of patience. Some have turned around and gone back. Those who remain are exhausted, frightened, and running low on supplies. The rest areas are overflowing. The convenience stores are sold out of food and water. The mood is tense. There have been arguments, even fights over gas, over parking spots, over places in line. The evacuation, which should have been orderly, has become chaotic. And the storm is still coming. The direction is still taking it toward them. They are not safe yet. They will not be safe until they are hundreds of miles inland. And for many of them, that is not possible. The meteorologists are now using words they rarely use. Catastrophic, unprecedented, life-threatening. They are not exaggerating. This is not hype. This is the reality of a Category 5 hurricane heading directly toward a major population center. The direction is everything. If the storm had turned north, it would have weakened over land. If it had turned south, it would have hit a sparsely populated area. But it did not turn. It stayed on course. It stayed on the worst possible course, and now there is nothing left to do but wait. The eye wall is now less than 50 miles from the coast. The winds on the leading edge are already hurricane force. The rain is coming down in sheets. The power is starting to fail. The backup generators are kicking in, but not everywhere. The cell towers are beginning to lose signal. This may be the last update for some areas. If you are reading this or hearing this, and you are still in the evacuation zone, you need to get to the sturdiest part of your home. You need to get away from windows. You need to fill your bathtub with water. You need to have a plan, and you need to know that this storm is unlike any you have experienced. The direction has made sure of that. The direction of the storm has been the story from the beginning. How it formed overnight, how it intensified faster than any storm in history, how it locked onto a trajectory that defied the odds. And now, how it is about to make landfall at the worst possible location. The story is almost over. The storm is almost here. In a few hours, the winds will peak. The surge will rise, the damage will be done, and then the recovery will begin. But the recovery will be haunted by questions. How did this happen? Why was there no warning? Why didn't more people leave? Those questions will be asked for years, but tonight there is only the storm, only the direction, only the fear. Let me give you the final forecast before landfall. Landfall is expected at approximately 2 a.m. local time. The exact location is predicted to be within 10 miles of the city's main harbor. The winds at landfall are expected to be 180 miles per hour, with gusts to 200. The storm surge is expected to be 25 feet in the harbor, with higher waves on top of that. The rainfall is expected to be 15 to 20 inches, with isolated amounts of up to 30 inches. The flooding will be catastrophic. The wind damage will be total. The storm The direction is set. There is nothing more to do but hold on. The people who are riding out the storm are now in their safe rooms. They are listening to the wind. They are feeling the building shake. They are wondering if the roof will hold. Some of them are praying. Some of them are crying. Some of them are silently staring at the walls. The fear is real. The fear is justified. Because a Category 5 hurricane is not something you survive by luck. It is something you survive by preparation, by planning, by being in the right place. And many of these people are not in the right place. They are in the path. They are in the direction. and the storm is almost upon them. The emergency broadcasts have stopped. The transmitters have been damaged. The last message was a warning to take cover. That was an hour ago. Since then, silence. The only sounds are the wind, the rain, and the occasional crash of something breaking. The storm is now in full. The direction is such that the worst of the eye wall is passing directly over the city. The winds are beyond belief. The pressure is lower than most barometers can measure. The storm is here. And there is nothing left to say. The aftermath will be covered for weeks. The death toll will be reported. The damage will be assessed. The political recriminations will begin. But none of that matters right now. Right now, the storm is still raging. The people in its path are still fighting for their lives. The direction that brought it here is the same direction that will carry it inland, where it will continue to cause flooding and destruction. The storm is not over. It will not be over for a long time. But the worst is happening. Now, the worst is here. Let me step back from the immediacy of the storm and give you a broader perspective. This hurricane did not come out of nowhere. It formed because the ocean is warmer than ever. Because the atmosphere is more unstable. Because the conditions that create hurricanes have been amplified by a changing climate. The direction that brought it to this city was influenced by a weakening of the subtropical ridge, a pattern that has been observed to shift in recent years. The science is clear. Storms like this will become more common. The direction that is so unusual today will become routine tomorrow. That is the message of this hurricane. That is why it changes everything. The insurance industry will be transformed. The building codes will be rewritten. The evacuation plans will be revised. The maps of flood zones will be redrawn. All because of the direction of this storm. All because it hit a place that never expected to be hit. All because it formed overnight and gave no warning. The lessons will be learned, but the cost of learning them will be measured in billions of dollars and in lives. That is the price of ignoring the warnings. That is the price of assuming that the past is a guide to the future. The past is gone. The future and the direction of this hurricane is pointing straight at it. The storm is now moving inland. The winds are weakening, but slowly. The rain continues. The flooding is spreading. The rivers are rising. The dams are being tested. The power is out across the region. The communication networks are down. The first responders are beginning to venture out, but they are overwhelmed. There are reports of people trapped in attics, on roofs, in trees. The Coast Guard is launching rescue helicopters, but the winds are still too high for many of them. The death toll will not be known for days, but it will be high. It will be much too high. The direction of the storm after landfall is taking it toward a major river system. That river is already at flood stage from recent rains. The additional rainfall from the storm will cause it to overflow. The levees along the river are not designed for a surge like this. Some of them will fail. The flooding will extend for miles inland, far from where the storm made land. People who thought they were safe will find themselves underwater. The direction of the storm, even after it weakened, is still causing destruction. Still claiming lives, still changing everything. Let me give you a sense of the scale of this disaster. The area affected by hurricane-force winds is approximately 10,000 square miles. That is larger than the state of Massachusetts. The area affected by storm surge is approximately 2,000 square miles. That is larger than the state of Delaware. The number of people directly impacted is over 5 million. That is the population of a major metropolitan area. The economic losses are estimated at over $100 billion. That would make this the most expensive natural disaster in history. The direction of the storm made it worse. The direction made it possible. The direction is the story. The meteorologists who tracked this storm will never forget it. They will remember the night They will remember the rapid intensification. They will remember the models converging on a single, terrifying track. They will remember the feeling of helplessness as they watched the storm head toward a city that could not defend itself. They will remember the questions from the public, the pleas for reassurance, the desperate hope that the models would be wrong. But the models were not wrong. The direction was locked in, and the storm did what the storm was going to do. The survivors will also never forget. They will remember the sound of the wind, the shaking of the walls, the rising water, the fear. They will remember the neighbors who did not make it, the houses that are no longer there, the streets that have become rivers. They will remember the days after, the search for food and water, the lines at distribution centers, the long wait for help. They will remember the direction of the storm, the way it came at them, the way it changed everything. The direction of this hurricane is now being studied by scientists around the world. They want to understand why it formed so quickly, why it intensified so rapidly, why it followed such a straight, unwavering path. They want to know if there were precursors they missed, if there are signals they can use to predict future storms. The answers will come, but slowly. The data will be analyzed. The models will be refined. The warnings will improve. But for the people who live through this storm, the answers will come too late. The storm is already here, the damage is already done, the direction is already etched into history. Let me leave you with this: the storm is not over. It will continue to move inland. It will continue to cause flooding. It will continue to test the limits of our infrastructure, our emergency services, our resilience. The direction will continue to take it toward new communities, new rivers, new vulnerabilities. The story will not end when the winds die down. It will continue for weeks, months, years. The rebuilding will take a generation. The memories will last a lifetime. And the question that will hang over everything is this: will we learn from this? Will we change the way we build, the way we plan, the way we respond? Or will we forget, as we have forgotten before, until the next storm comes? The direction of this hurricane changes everything. It changes how we think about risk. It changes how we think about time. It changes how we think about the future. Because the future is not what we thought it was. The future is a Category 5 hurricane that forms overnight and heads straight for you. And if you are not ready, you will not survive. That is the message. That is the warning. That is the new reality. The storm is here. The direction is set. And there is no going back. The wind has finally stopped. The rain has eased. The storm has passed. But the world it left behind is not the same. The direction that brought it here will be studied for decades. The fear that came with it will never fully fade. And somewhere, out over the warm ocean, the next storm is already forming. The next direction is already being set. The next nightmare is already on its way. And we will watch. We will wait. We will hope that this time we are ready. But deep down we know the truth. A storm like this changes everything. And nothing will ever be the same.